So, okay, so we just did this free write on exploding the moment, talking about this narrative. We'll talk more about what that exploding that moment is all about and hear from you about how it's it kind of worked for you. But does anybody want to share um, the moment that you chose to? Oh, hold on, I'm doing something wrong. The moment that you exploded, you could talk about a little, or you might want to just read it. Anybody want to share?
I will.
Okay.
Since we're doing the narrative and I'm kind of focusing on the aspect of a stutter, I didn't really have a lot of thoughts about it, but I kind of did a slam poetry take on it for my 5 minutes.
Okay.
I said, send toast to 10 stout saints, 10 tall 10s. Before I would have tripped over the colluding thoughts left writhing through vital veins and organs that left me with the sense of this is bigger than you. It is just words I tell myself while I blush, ashamed at the words that get stuck on the tip of my tongue while I am performing in class. I want to say, I have so many thoughts and opinions, listen to me. Instead I say, sorry for that, and then I try again. And that's what I have right now.
Thank you. That's a lot to work with. Thank you for sharing. I do spoken word poetry too. Poetry is very special to me, so I look forward to seeing how you develop that. Anybody else? Um, yes, go ahead, one.
Uh, South Central Los Angeles, when I grew up, was not a place that had a lot of pathways out. A lot of my friends were getting involved in things and ideas that I didn't agree with. It felt like I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. I had been accepted to college, but I didn't want to go that route. A mistake, yes, looking back, but that's irrelevant now. Living with my mom at the time was becoming untenable. From reading encyclopedias as a youngster and learning in school, I was completely aware of a whole world of excitement across the globe in the form of other cultures and countries. Like a lightning strike of ideas, I decided my path would be to join the military to get out and to get a free ride from to the other side of the planet. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. That's a lot. One of the words that stuck out to me as you began to read was pathways. It might end up being a working title or a theme or something that's going to find its way into that thesis. One thing I want to point out, do you see how much you're creating in 5 minutes? From the two samples that, classmates that Will and Ty shared and that built into what you created. I can think about, an accordion that I want you to read through it and look through opportunities as doorways. Like I heard in Wales there was the whole place of in these pathways there was that option to go to college, which could be a whole section. There was the childhood of reading encyclopedias. That could be a whole section. So now you have childhood encyclopedias, adolescence, slipping into adulthood, college, adulthood, military, you know. And yeah. Anybody else? Yes, please. Okay. How do
I
you
will share.
pronounce your name for me?
Tiba?
Tiba.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I will share the moment when we was in Turkey and we received calls about our case accepted to come to the United States. And my husband and me, we was in the street and we didn't believe this moment. We was jumping and screaming, and all the people look at us. So I think I'm gonna write about this.
Okay, okay. Who was they? How many of y'all were there? Jumping up and down. You said they. Who was with you who was with you during that moment?
Me and my husband and
Oh,
my daughter. Yeah.
okay, okay. See how us just knowing that detail? Now I'll see the three of them, jumping up and down
Yeah.
and screaming.
We didn't know what we did. Like we jumping and scream, and we was crying and happy because our life gonna change. We wait this moment from 3 years.
Mm.
So it's a big moment for us.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna share the screen, go back to our agenda for a minute and talk to y'all about that email I sent out last night about slowing down. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. All right. So this is our agenda for today. We did our writing prompt. With the slowing down, as I was trying to figure out, because when I looked at our class and all my classes, the announcement for week 3, there was a gap, and the announcement for our week 3 had the stuff that we read for week 2. And then, I was communicating with students just trying to figure out what do we do this week. So I said we got to go over content and look at module 2, part 2, so we know what to do this week. And when I got, on Zoom with a colleague, the one who was strategic in putting the course shell together, she pointed out that we were somehow a week ahead because in the shell, module 1 should have been broken down into 2 weeks, but it was in 1 week. So we did 2 weeks of stuff, if you will, in that 1 week. So we were kind of operating with module 1 on, sometimes these online classes, there's a 10-week version where you got to get 15 weeks worth of stuff in. So anyway, so once I got that information, I had the opportunity to either kind of keep pushing y'all or for us to take this moment, right? Explode this moment, to take this moment to slow down. So that means that we're kind of on the threshold of part 1 and part 2 of the narrative section because y'all have already been doing some of the assignments, particularly the discussion board, and I introduced the readings for part 2. But this gives us an opportunity to slow it down a little and to actually be able to maybe try to relax more in the writing and creative process so that doesn't get swallowed up with another assignment I've got to get done. And so we'll talk. So these readings, which are now going to be the homework, these readings, let's take this one out, are going to be for next week. But we're going to talk a little bit about them today because they have to do with this narrative essay that you're writing. So go back to our course. So, so now here we are. Oh, this is the survey that we're reaching out, asking you to fill out. So as when you get a chance, try to jump up in there and do that for the English department so we can get those statistics. Appreciate it. It's gonna show up soon as you log into. Actually, I think it shows up from the home page. Well, no, that's something different. Okay, let me get back to our class. So ask you to fill that out, please. Okay, so here we are now. Notice in week 3 now, just all the things that we did last week. So this link here is to the learning notes for. So basically, we're still in part one of module two, transitioning to three. So these are the same notes about, from our first week with writing the narrative. This is the chapter that we read last week, generating ideas, getting started. Um, I believe these are going to be, they should be the learning notes for part one of module two. And as you remember, now these are the links to the three videos that we probably already watched, but I emphasize it could be valuable to watch the one you've chosen again, and to also even watch the other two again as you begin to read these chapters that you're now reading for us to implement, for next week, reading about description, dialogue, and slowing things down, as well as the thesis statement. So as you read through those, it could be, could be strategic to watch your video that you chose again to see how that writer accomplishes that. And so this brainstorming session here, that links us back to the actual discussion that we did last week. The only thing new on this page is if we click here, see, Will help me find it, and then then I realized it was also built in various announcement places. But from this announcement for week 3 on the course home, this link takes us to the actual prompt and details for the narrative essay. So while I'm in here, let me go ahead and just.
Do you know that your screen is still on the agenda page on the Word document, right? Were you trying to like share your screen as you were going?
Thank you for telling me that. Sometimes with Zoom, you switch pages, and so I'm there because I was gone, y'all. I was I was all in the course note. Okay, let me do this again. Thanks, man. Okay, let me. I was just sailing along. Y'all don't see none of that stuff, huh? Okay. All right, y'all can see that now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just go back to the home course page for a minute.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Y'all can still see, now you can still see again the survey I was telling you about. Narrative writing. Are y'all seeing that on the course home?
Yeah, yes, we're seeing it.
Okay. So I was saying all of this stuff in this announcement right here for week 3, we did it last week. The only thing new with this is that this link right here takes us to the actual assignment and prompt and stuff that's laid out for the narrative essay. So this is here where it's giving us the directions, all of this around the narrative essay, and then it gives us some pre-writing brainstorms to do, and then it takes us to the 4 prompts. You'll choose one of these topics to write about, and then it takes us to some tips and some suggestions, and then it takes us and lays it out and tells us that in addition to the essay, you will also be writing, you'll also include, when you submit your essay, a cover letter where you answer these questions to record your writing process in creating this narrative essay. And notice it's a post-writing essay reflection. So that means that you're going to start answering these questions now. Then you'll pull it together when the paper is due as this cover letter. But you want to answer these questions now to begin to record your journey of writing this paper. Questions, comments, feedback?
I have a question.
Yes.
So it says that it's due in week 5. What's the exact date for that?
Okay. I'm gonna change that date right now because it was the 20th. Let me go here. First, I'm gonna go to the Dropbox. Okay, see here, I went to the page for the Dropbox. Y'all see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was the 20th. And then I realized we were a week ahead. So now I'm going to change that to the 27th. So this essay is going to be due the 27th. Next week, we'll work on it some more together. And then then the following week, we'll roll into peer review. All right. So now let me just go back to this. Let's go back to here. Let me put that date in there for y'all. More questions? Come on, y'all, answer some questions. Anything you're thinking about? Because I'd like us this opportunity to talk about this prompt some in detail. Nothing?
Do you think you could go over the homework that we have due from now and then, if there's any?
Okay. Let's go to.
'Cause so I don't want to get like behind, so like everything I can do.
All right. So because we slowed it down, it really kind of gives students the opportunity. If there's something that you didn't do last week, you could do it. So everything in here that's in this announcement for week 3, you need to do. You need to read and view this information. If you haven't, if you have, it could be valuable to reread it and review it because writing is a process. And so that means everything that we're doing is building up to what we're going to do. So to be successful, to be more successful with the essay you're about to write, you have to spend time with all of the assignments. So this is the stuff, all of the stuff, this is what's due if you haven't done it already. So if you click on here, Introduction to Narrative, you get to go through the whole introduction to narrative writing. So you want to read that. You'll notice that, you might notice that when you actually go into the Learn Notes, when you're actually reading this, the system shows a check. So to show whether, the student actually read through it. But so everything, there, which is going to be also in content under narrative part 1 or all these things. And so it talks to you about the objectives after you go through this section on narrative writing. You'll understand these components more. And then it's taught here, and now next it takes you to the prompt. Now notice this thing is loaded. There's a lot in here. There are whole series of assignments built into this prompt that if you don't do these assignments that are built in there, you're going to rob yourself of what's built in there for you to exercise the writing process. And let's say if you just try to read through it and say, okay, I'm gonna do number 2, and then you go to and say, how do I do number 2? Well, understand that by going through this prompt, this layout, understand these directions is what's going to help you build your essay, right? It's telling us you're telling this story. This first essay, you're asked to draw on your own life experience, or ask you for some reflection, some analysis, as a way of making a means to address the rhetorical content. Think about places where you really feel you belong. So in this whole section, this first one, introduction, telling us what we're doing, it's going to be strategic to answer, all these questions, to jot it down someplace, to really read through this and choose your selection, 1, 2, 3, or 4, to go through these tips where it's talking to you about how to lay this thing out. What, how many pages does it have to be? What size font to use? And then to start on your post-writing reflection. Okay. And then,
Miss Louise,
yeah.
speaking of fonts, I use Times, I think New Times Roman or something. Is that okay? Or am I supposed to use Arial?
We're doing MLA format. MLA format requires either Times New Roman or Arial, size 10, 11, or 12.
Oh, okay. I need to reduce mine to one of those. I'm on 14 right now.
Nah,
But I think it's because of my vision. Okay.
Yo, you could do it for you, but when you hand it in, the specifications for MLA are those 2 fonts, Times New Roman or Arial, font 10, 11, 12.
Perfect.
Okay, so let me see. So again, so now we're still in here, module 2, narrative writing part 1. We just after we looked at that introduction and the prompt, here are the learning notes. You need to be reading through those. This is what we talked last week, and now we get to revisit it this week about these brainstorming pre-writing techniques. These learning notes here, they go right alongside with that chapter 29 that you're reading in the Norton textbook, which is attached here. If you don't have your textbook, you're still waiting in the textbook. So you're reading through that, trying some of those techniques out. Then here are our resources. So this is telling us you need to read that chapter 29 for our course. Let me show you real quick. I'll come back here. You go to content. I got this folder that says resources, and I've uploaded, I've put the assigned chapters so far in that folder because I know some students are still waiting on their textbooks. Let me go back over here. Narrative. So we're in narrative, module 2, part 1. Notice how, see, I have this check mark over here to this. This is what tells me already, I've already read this. So if you haven't read it, you know you haven't read it. But you'll look at it and you'll see a circle. And once you read it, it will show the check mark if you've read through that. So then in addition, so you have the learning notes, which again now is talking to you about using these techniques to get started. Then these are the learning activities. You read chapter 29, which talks about those same brainstorming techniques in the learning notes. And then this is the place where you access the link to choose which video you're going to watch. So we have about these 5-minute videos that's going to help you see identity narrative in action. And they're about 5 minutes long. It could be a strategic investment to watch all three, unless you like watching one, you know that one kind of really connects with you, but you want to watch these videos, focusing in on one that's going to kind of be your springboard, for discussion, and an opportunity to begin to understand this identity narrative in the context of the stuff that you're reading and preparing to write about. And then module 2, discussion 1. And then you have this discussion that if you haven't done it already, so we're moving which is based on watching one of those videos. First, think about the narrative video you watched. What was its thesis? Consider its guidelines. Everything it's telling you in here to think about and do is going to find its way into that initial post if you haven't done it already. This might be an opportunity. Some of you might want to go back and revisit your post, but if you've done it, you've done it. But again, you have your words, because these words, can miraculously find their way into your essay, whether you know it or not. By doing all these small assignments, you're really building that essay. So when it's time to pull together that draft, don't sit in front of a blank sheet of paper and think and talk about, I don't know what to write. Go to the stuff that you've written. Go to the stuff that you put on the discussion board. Go to the stuff that you did in the free writing, and that's your essay. You just got to put it together like Lego. Okay, so then this gives us, again, the details of what you're doing. And so because we have this opportunity to slow down, that means for those who haven't responded to this post, you get a chance to do it and not lose, any points. And it is still strategic, because after you post yours, after you post your initial post, then you need to come back later and now respond to 2 classmates and respond in detail. One line, oh, I like what you said. It's not going to do. It's not going to get you all the points. But it's telling you in here how to, in your initial post, tell which narrative video you chose. Then, so it's telling you here what to write in that post. And here, right later in the week, return to the discussion and reply to at least 2 of your peers. In your peer responses, give specific feedback and suggestions to your peers regarding their working thesis. Point out at least one thing you think they have done well, and ask questions or give advice to help improve it further. What else do you know? Okay, let me see something. And once you've walked and done all of those assignments, you've completed everything from our week 2, which is kind of now, week 3, and it will have you poised and ready to now start your reading and preparing for next week. So I hope that answers your question about what should I still be working on. Here is a further reading, not required, but suggested if you want to grapple and understand more about this pre-writing strategy. You can click on there and it'll give you some more insight. And then this is the list of sources that we've used so far. Let's say hypothetically you were going to be doing a works cited page, attaching it to your essay. This again is, it's not only giving you the information one would need to craft that. It's not required for this paper. We'll be doing that, a little later on though. But it's giving you information you need to craft that, but it's also pointing you to where those sources came from if you need to get back to them. Okay, then that pushes us into part 2. Excellent question. Gave me a chance to kind of go over everything of where we're at. What else? More questions? because we are, I guess a little ahead because what's kind of tempting. There's a part of me that was like, just let them keep going. Don't just let them keep going. But then I looked on and I was like, oh man, these people out there, it's 8 o'clock. And these people trying to craft it out there trying to explode this moment. And I'm like, oh man, what should I do? What should I do? Then I decided to do the slow down thing. But because we get to slow down, but it doesn't mean we're stopping. We just pulled up at a light and put the foot on the brakes a little bit. We ease and I put up off the brake. We're not moving over into the parking space. And I know y'all thinking and working and doing this already. So I want us to spend some of our time today, especially since we don't meet again till next Thursday. Let's delve into this part 2 of narrative process that you've already been working on. So I'm gonna go back to share my screen again. And this is now what I had you doing this week, but now so some of you might have finished a lot of this aspect. So that means it's opportunity to revisit it, to refine it, but also now to sharpen it and to let all of this stuff, all of this information is going into the brain, you know, um, writing process, pre-writing, brainstorming. Now we're talking about drafting. You got all these questions, now you're talking about the process of writing, narrative, telling a story. And you got me thinking about, trying to find a moment or something in my life that I want to explode. But keep in mind that you're putting all of this in your head and your heart, and they seem like a bunch of separate things, but you put them in there, then you turn on the heat, even if it's simmer, that's thinking. You're thinking about all this stuff that's in there, and it's making a stew. It's causing all of those elements that you're putting in there to break down some and come together to become all these separate things to become your identity narrative. So again, I emphasize that the process of writing, probably 80% of it is just thinking, and then spending that 20% or to write down and to kind of to wrestle what you think. And then sometimes you're thinking and you're moving the pen too. But either way, so we're on this precipice of narrative essay writing part 2. And so our learning notes, which some of you probably delved into already, is talking to us about exploring narrative writing and thesis statements. And so we get to it's good we get to our first thesis statement that we're kind of really crafting together. We get to do it in telling a story. But this thesis statement, it'll pretty much be that one sentence in every essay that you write in college, no matter what the subject matter is. They might call it something different in science. They might call it the hypothesis. They might call it something different in film. I'm not sure exactly what they call that one line in film. They may call it something different depending on in medical field, the diagnosis. They may call it something different. But in all of this writing, there always needs to pretty much be one sentence that states the main idea of the entire essay. It must include the topic plus an assertion. An assertion is something you're going to declare, develop, or defend. So this now is talking to you about narrative writing and the thesis statement. And it's also talking to us some about these tools we're going to use to write this narrative. This is a little video, about 5 minutes long, where it's talking about how to make that language concrete, because you want the reader to, you want to show me, not tell me. As the reader's reading the words off the page, they should be watching a film in front of their eyes, if you will. And so this video is designed to help you get some cues on how do I do that? very interesting. The video that we're using here is called "How to Write Fiction that Comes Alive," and we're not writing fiction. We're actually writing memoir. We're writing autobiography. You're writing out of life experience. But the tools that are used to write fiction can be used to enrich any genre. I use the word genre. Fiction is a genre. Poetry is a genre. Drama is a genre, right? So this video is talking to us about using certain techniques to describe, using words that appeal to the senses. So this video is a visual for you to watch that's going to connect with one of the chapters, chapter 42, you're going to read on description. I want us to watch one of these videos together. This one is talking about how do I slow time down? Slowing time down is key to exploding the moment. And this is about 5 minutes out. We're gonna actually take the time out to watch this together because this one it can help us to share a little bit in the two examples in our free writing that a classmate shared. One of the things I think about is how they're going to slow that story down in a way that really explodes that moment. I keep thinking about kernels of popcorn. You notice how you buy kernels of popcorn, they all look the same. But once you put that heat to it, and sometimes it's air popped, once enough pressure is put to it from whatever that air is, that kernel explodes. And you actually, I think it's kind of phenomenal to realize that big old kernel was in that little tiny thing. And not only that, that each of those kernels now, once they become a piece of popcorn, are unique. And that's what we're reaching out to do. So let's watch this little video together. Take some good notes, stuff that might jump out at you. Thinking about this moment that you're writing about, thinking about a moment that you are considering writing about in your narrative, and take some good notes about some cues this video offers you to help you to slow down time.
I got my first car accident when I was 16. I had just gotten my license and I was driving home when a car pulled into the intersection and bang, it hit me. It happened that quick, bang. But when I play that memory back, it doesn't take 2 seconds. I see the tires of the car rolling through the stop sign. I have time to think, I think that car is going to hit me. I see the right-hand corner of the hood crumple up like tinfoil, see the red paint flake off and drift into the air. I can see all of that, like it's happening in slow motion. In my memory, that experience takes 10 seconds. But why? Why did that memory play back longer than the actual time it took? This is an interesting phenomenon, and it's not just for car accidents, a roller coaster or a first kiss. These events seem to take longer than they actually take. But why? And when it comes to writing about that experience, how do I get that peculiar feeling across? How do I slow down time as a writer? To get the answer, we have to visit Hollywood. You see, the way filmmakers create slow motion will tell us a lot about how writers can create slow motion. First, let's remember how film works. When the camera turns on, it's not recording motion. It's taking lots and lots of individual pictures. Then when those pictures are played back in a projector, they blend together and create the appearance of motion, like a flip book. So let's imagine that a cameraman needs to film his actress skipping through a field of daisies in regular motion. Ready, action. She skips across the field, he records it, and cut. Let's say, for the sake of easy math, that our cameraman took 50 pictures. 50 little frames on that length of film. Now let's take that film and play it back at the rate of 50 frames per 5 seconds. This rate is constant. The projector will always go at the same speed. It's easy. We've got 50 frames, so our film takes 5 seconds. She skips across the field and cuts. So then, how do we slow down time in film? How do we create slow motion? Maybe this is a surprise, but we don't take less pictures. We take more pictures. Ready? Action. She skips across the field, he records it, and cuts. Now we have a lot of film, a long length, let's say 100 frames long. Now, when we play it back, it takes a longer time to get through. And there's the axis in slow motion. Skipping through the field days. Which brings us now to writing. When you're writing a narrative, you may want to use slow motion in one of your scenes. It's a cool effect, just like it is in Hollywood, and it draws the reader's attention to important moments. But here's how you do it. You see, when we read, our brain makes the words into pictures, and the pictures blend into action. So what we read is what we see in the time it takes us to read it. For example, imagine you're writing a narrative about your game-winning free throw in a championship game. Here's a moment as a writer that you might want to slow down time to really capture the second-by-second tension produced by the scene. You concentrate, you put the pencil to paper, you really want to slow down time. You write, I shot the ball in the hoop. Time slowed down, then we won. To read that takes 2 seconds. Therefore, your reader imagines a scene that takes 2 seconds. Ball goes up, comes down, done. See, even though you wrote time slowed down, you didn't achieve that effect for your reader. Just saying it doesn't make it happen. Now let's take what we know about film. Time slows down with more pictures. And try again. This time, write a lot more. I bent my knees and held the ball loosely. Letting the ball bounce on the floor once more, I gathered my thoughts. This was the moment. My right arm extended as I released the ball with a gentle flick. It rotated slightly as it arched toward the rim. I held my breath. The ball nudged the back rim, falling through the net with a gentle, satisfying swish, and the crowd exploded in their seats. See? We just slowed down time through our writing. The bottom line is this. There are moments in life that take longer than they actually take. When you're planning out your narrative, think about those moments, those snippets of life that took longer than the watch. The moment of hearing bad news, the moment of hearing good news, the moment of exhilaration when you realize you hit the jump, or the moment when you realize you aren't going to land it. Once you identify these moments in your narrative, you can use this effect of slow motion when you write. Just remember, it's not enough to say time slowed down, and it's not enough to throw a couple adjectives in a sentence and call it done either. Descriptive writing is good writing, that's true. But if you want to express the feeling of slow motion in life, you have to actually take up more physical space on the page. Use more film, so to speak. In doing so, you will create tension and keep your reader interested. And that way, the next time you write, you'll control the camera of your own
Mm. Okay. So let's open up your book. Turn to a clean sheet of paper. Or you might even start um, from where you left off. And look, if you haven't, or you might do this with a new memory or thought that you're thinking about writing about. But see if you can identify something that you've written in that first rewrite, or a moment you haven't written about, and let's see if you could slow it down, which is equaling taking that one moment. How does how how does time slow down that line, right around that line where she's describing the stutter, to unpack that line to where that moment between, or that moment where she talked about of describing the internal working of a stutter, but then the words that come out of her mouth are sorry. That moment right there to explode and develop that moment. One of those pathways that Will talks about, to take that moment of thinking about going to college and was that line, but then deciding not to explode that hole, or that moment of going into um, the military. So let's try it. And from what this video is saying, there's an aspect of slowing down time that equals the more I have on the page. But what is on the page is just an attempt to describe this moment. Questions, comments, feedback before I start the clock? All right, let's try this. Let's take 5 minutes. Ready? Let's explode the moment. Right. Okay, wrap up your thoughts. Catch that last line. Okay. Anybody want to share anything? I hate to break up your flow because I'm telling you, writing is a zone. You get in there, man. Woo! It's just a crime to interrupt the flow. Oh man, I love it. I love it. I gotta learn how to use those reactions. Crying. Anybody want to share? You can share what you wrote. You can share how it worked for you. You can share how the process went.
I'll share.
Okay.
So my frustration was coming to a head. I was in an argument with my mom when my phone rang. My mom answered it. She said, "Hi," but the way she said hi, like how I've heard before, signified that the call was for me. She looked at me, then her face went dead. Then her eyes welled up. Then it went away. I was confused. Was the call for me or what? What was going on? I thought. I had just gotten back from a visit with my father over the weekend in San Bernardino County. I actually missed a party with my best friend named Eddie that I had known since kindergarten. My mom chokes back her words and hands me the phone, then touches me in my arm. I looked at her like, what are you touching me for? That's all I got.
Okay. Okay.
All
So
I got.
all right. So that was you. You slow them down. Um, watch it. Make sure you watch the Everybody, I want you to watch it, but the video that over there with, and also you're gonna read a chapter about dialogue. Those places you might want to have the words your mother says, even if it's just you. Instead of you saying, you might want to have her say hello, where you have her, actually say that dialogue, right? Okay, okay. But again, it's getting more concrete. I start to see, mm, the phone and the standing, and I could almost see her, grab your arm. And it is me as this reader, or in this case, this listener. I want to know, right? I want to know what happened. What's happening. Okay. And what moment out of did you pull a moment out your first free write around that one, or that's a new moment?
No, I actually because I barely touched on it in my first one
But
because in my first writing I was talking about how I was frustrated at life and how some of my friends were getting involved in other things and where was I
okay,
going?
okay, so
What
that
was
was the
I going to
moment.
go to college or what was I going to do? And so I kind of went into that mindset on what pushed me over the edge to decide to leave.
Okay, okay, yeah. I just wanted to know. You told me in your answer you did pick a specific moment out of that first free writing and start to explode it. Good, thank you. Anybody else? How was the process for you? How did it feel? How much did you get out? How much did you get on the page? Here for somebody haven't shared. Okay. Well, the beautiful thing is that we get to take this journey together. you'll find out if you don't already know, but I know because I've been hanging around colleges for a long time. So I kind of know that what we're doing here together this semester, and even the idea of even in an English class or even in a full credit bearing college, 3 credit class, the idea of actually practicing and developing our writing skills, but to get to do it around telling a story that you choose, being given the opportunity to frame your life, to create your identity on page, right? And also to even be able to be together as writers and to talk about writing and actually write. I mean, it's a it's a huge gift and opportunity that in between a lot of classes you take down the road, these sort of experiences sometimes might be few, far between. But I also know that the skills we're practicing and using are the skills that are bedrock no matter what profession you go into and no matter how high you go. Some of the things that we're doing and introducing you to um, will get you through your associates, your bachelor's, your master's, and your PhD. The writing process does not change. So sometimes it may seem like, well, I'm just doing this, I'm just doing that. But I am putting before you and giving you opportunity and challenging you to practice skills that no matter where you go from here, they're going to help you succeed to achieve your goals. So on that note, again, be patient with me. I hope to have updated all of our grades before the week is out. Definitely before the weekend is out, so you'll start seeing your grades coming in, and you have the readings for for week 4 that you already know about. So you can start reading those. They're going to help you as you continue to think and write um about your narrative essay, preparing to plan it, thinking about description, dialogue, thesis statement, so forth, so on. So I guess that's all I got for now. Got any final comments? Anything? Questions? All right, and I hope that again as we come, I'll be here. I'll be here for office hours on on Tuesday during this time. But if you need me before then, reach out. Remember, I'm also a writing coach. So if you want some one-on-one time, working on this assignment, you can sign up through Navigate or reach out to me. I'll show you how to sign up. We can meet half an hour or up to an hour via Zoom. But I'm also physically on campus. When was it? Oh Lord, what's the day? The day. Oh, okay. I'm on Thursday. Today's Thursday, right? I'm physically at Lowry campus on Thursday from 2:30 to 5, and I'm physically at Lowry campus on Saturdays from 11 to 2. You know, and there's tutors out there for other subjects, so just kind of know that. All right, y'all. Any final questions, comments, anything? Yeah, and I just want to tell you, time, even as you, like you said, as you're slowing down those moments, you just stay with that. Um, Spoken word poetry form. It'll be interesting to see how you kind of flesh out that story in that way.
I definitely will. I definitely enjoy poetry. I like slam poetry. I enjoy watching those videos and seeing how people will talk about their issues in like such an artful form. I definitely want to try and get more into it.
Okay, okay. So you probably did choose the poet from Darfa, right? Out of the 3 videos, that's the one you chimed into.
I actually tuned into the one with Asperger's, but I
Okay.
watched the one with Dafa because I wanted to see all of them just to see which one I liked the most, and
Uh-huh.
I did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Because you might want to see if you can find that combination because what you're dealing with is you might end up taking from both videos. because you actually are dealing with both. Not only that performance poetry, if you will, but also the brilliance encased in quote unquote disability. All right, y'all. See ya. I'm
Have a
hanging
good
up with
day.
me. You too.
Oh,
I'm
you
good.
Have a good weekend.
See
You
y'all.
too.
You're
You
welcome.
too.
You're welcome.